It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are, firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has something like this?
I don't know how it works on the Democrat side, but that's how it works on the Republican side.
AIPAC, typically speaking, is a fairly left-wing Democratic institution. AIPAC, for example, did not intervene in 2015 when they had the opportunity to do so to pressure Democrats not to vote on behalf of Barack Obama's horrific Iranian nuclear deal. Also, many of the people that you see Congress people talking about, oh, we have an AIPAC handler. No, you don't. That's not what a handler is. A handler, typically speaking, is a person who works for an organization and then provides covert payments in some way in order to do corrupt things.
There seems to be a great awakening happening of the American people and of the American media out there that's making it very obvious who is being good faith and who just likes to generate as much money as possible. And Ben Shapiro, of course, absolutely hates that because he is in the portion of people who just lie to their audience in order to generate the most amount of money possible. They've even fired people who actually exercise their right to freedom of speech and ask some questions such as Candace Owens because she was going to make them lose money. Not because she wasn't getting a lot of views or generating a lot of website clicks, but because she was saying the wrong opinion, or she was at least going in that direction. And Ben Shapiro today is now mad at Tucker Carlson and his guest Thomas Massie for exposing something that a lot of you watching this probably already knew, but a lot of people out there, including Tucker Carlson, at least that's what he's acting like in the video, didn't know what Thomas Massie is about to say to Tucker. And Ben Shapiro is very, very angry at what Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson were talking about on Tucker Carlson's podcast. Let's check out this clip here from Ben Shapiro, and then we'll get into the clip that I'm talking about of Tucker Carlson and Thomas Massie that Ben Shapiro is addressing in this one. Let's check this out.
From Predator, of like the black fist and the white fist, like gripping hands and agreeing that the Jews are responsible for everything. So Fuentes tweeted out at Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez, because Fuentes and Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez agree that supposedly AIPAC is responsible for all the ills in the world. So first of all, let me point something out at AIPAC. AIPAC, typically speaking, is a fairly left-wing Democratic institution. AIPAC, for example, did not intervene in 2015 when they had the opportunity to do so to pressure Democrats not to vote on behalf of Barack Obama's horrific Iranian nuclear deal. Also, many of the people that you see Congress people talking about, oh, we have an AIPAC handler. No, you don't. That's not what a handler is. A handler, typically speaking, is a person who works for an organization and then provides covert payments in some way in order to do corrupt things. The people that, for example, Thomas Massie is talking about.
Okay. You can't just make up a definition of a handler. I don't maybe the handler is not the correct word, but who cares what the label is? I'm going to show you the clip here in 1 second of Thomas Massie talking about it. If someone is not accepting money from their handler, like Ben Shapiro was saying that the definition of a handler is someone who follows you around, makes sure you make the right decisions, and covertly pays you money in order to continue to make the right decisions. Well, what if the handler, maybe it's not called handler, who cares what you want to call it, it still has the same effect. Maybe this handler is not handing out money to these people in order for them to make the quote unquote right decisions that benefits them the most. Maybe they are threatening them with things that aren't payment. Maybe bad things will happen to them if they don't vote the right way and make the right decisions, hold the right opinions. So if the handler isn't handing money to the person who is the decision maker, the lawmaker, the congressperson, who cares, whatever it is, then they're not a handler in Ben Shapiro's eyes. These people, they like to spin these words and make up their own definition for these words in order to distract from the actual conversation. Who cares what the label on these people are? Let's check out the Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson clip that Ben Shapiro was talking about, and then we'll go back to Ben for him to finish his idiotic statement here. But this is this is just crazy stuff coming out. Like I said, great awakening happening, and Tucker Carlson is even acting like he's shocked, which I'm shocked that Tucker Carlson didn't know what Thomas Massie is about to say, because I think a lot of you watching probably know this.
They're not registered.
Is there any other Republican who has your views on this?
Well, I have Republicans who come to me on the floor and say, I wish I could vote with you today. Yours is the right vote, but I would just take too much flack back home. And I have Republicans who come to me and say, that's wrong what AIPAC is doing to you. Let me talk to my AIPAC person. By the way, everybody but me has an AIPAC person.
What does that mean, an AIPAC person?
It's like your babysitter, your AIPAC babysitter, who is always talking to you for AIPAC. They're probably a constituent in your district, but they are, firmly embedded in AIPAC. And
every member has something like this?
I don't know how it works on the Democrat side, but that's how it works on the Republican side. And when they come to DC, you go have lunch with them, and they've got your cell number, and you have conversations with them. So I've had
that's absolutely crazy.
Does this just sound like an advisor or whatever label Ben Shapiro would like to put on it, just because Thomas Massie isn't blatantly saying that they are handing them money in order to vote a certain way? Does this not sound like a handler situation? Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'm just this crazy, loony, conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat person. But to me, this sounds like a handler. That's just what it sounds like to me. I don't know. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I would like to know in the comments if I am completely wrong. Tucker Carlson seems to think that I'm right as well.
4 members of Congress say, I'll talk to my AIPAC person. And it's literally what we call them, my AIPAC guy. I'll talk to my AIPAC guy and see if I can get him to, dial those ads back.
Why have I never heard this before?
It doesn't benefit anybody. Why would they want to tell their constituents that they've basically got a buddy system with somebody who's representing a foreign country? It doesn't benefit the congressman for people to know that, so they're not going to tell you that.
Have you seen any other country do anything like this? Like
no.
Russia obviously determines the outcome of our elections. We keep hearing that. Does anyone have a Putin guy that they talk to?
Not only do they not have a Putin guy, look, they don't have a Britain guy. They don't have an Australian guy.
So you get the gist, right? That certain company, that lettered organization, the acronymed organization. I don't want to say too many times, although it's been said a million times already in this video. But that place, they basically control a lot of the things that's happening. Okay, I won't say everything. They're controlling a lot of these elections. I think 99% of the people that they endorse end up winning their elections. So even if they are not directly paying these people, because Thomas Massie didn't say that they are being handed money in order to hold these certain opinions, maybe they're saying that you won't get reelected if you don't hold this opinion, or maybe that's just understood. Because to the rest of the United States, anybody who has looked into it, it's kind of understood that if these people don't, that if they're being endorsed by AIPAC and then they don't vote for, say what is in the best interest of that place that they're being endorsed by, then they're not going to be endorsed again. And therefore, they have a 99% chance of not being reelected because they're not endorsed by the place, by the organization that the people that they endorse win 99% of their elections. So it's just kind of an understood thing. Even if it's not like out there like, hey, I'll pay you $1 million if you vote this way on this bill. I mean, they kind of understand that if they don't vote that way, they're not getting reelected because they're not getting endorsed again. So let's go back to what Ben Shapiro has to say about this particular interview with Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson here.
Talking about, those are just constituents who actually agree with the cause of AIPAC and then lobby his office. That's not a handler. That's called a constituent, and it exists across the board. It turns out there are many people who are arranged with many different lobbying groups across America, from left to right, on causes ranging from the environmental to tax to foreign policy. Them calling off an office does not make them a quote-unquote handler. In any case, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has attempted to jump on this bandwagon, suggesting that AIPAC is in control of the United States Congress, which is a full-scale absurdity. I mean, that it's just ridiculous. Okay, but AOC,
it's not absurd, but it's a little bit hypocritical, because I'm sure the AOC is she probably has like a China person, she probably has like a CCP person, just like how the Republicans have their, the AIPAC people. I'm sure that AOC has her China person that she goes to.
Tweeted something out about AIPAC, in which she says an unspoken secret in Congress is that much of the reflexive, blind, unconditional vote support for nearly any Israeli government action isn't from actual agreement. It's from fear. Reps are terrified of this, of AIPAC, so they don't vote their conscience. They vote their fear. Now, this is very reminiscent of the kind of language people used to use about the NRA. They say, oh, the NRA controls gun policy. And it turns out, nope, it's just there are a lot of Americans who support gun rights. And then a lot of their Congress people also support gun rights. And when your constituents support a thing, you very often tend to support that thing. It turns out the American people are overwhelmingly pro-Israel, except for AOC.
If you enjoy content like this, then make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. It really does help me out a ton. Let's get back to the video.
AOC and Nick Fuentes, who lock arms in their hatred for Israel and for Jews. In any case, Alexandria Ocasio, this was it was the best exchange. It was great. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez rips on AIPAC and suggests that everyone is voting this way out of secret fear of AIPAC. which again is reminiscent of the old joke about two Jews meeting in 1937 Germany, and one of them sitting on a park bench and is reading Der Stürmer, which is the Nazi newspaper. Another Jew walks by and looks, says, "What are you reading? Why are you reading that garbage?" The guy says, "There's so much good news. We run the banks, we run the government." That's AOC and Nick Fuentes. The Jews run everything according to them. Anyway, Fuentes then tweeted.
He has to he has to use hyperbole to distract from the actual conversation. Like, he's not actually addressing anything directly head on that anyone's talking about, that Tucker Carlson or Thomas Massie's talking about, or even AOC. And obviously I don't agree with AOC. AOC just has her own agenda. And that's what's frustrating about this whole thing is I'm forced to align with people like AOC and Hassan, not because we have the same morals or principles or anything. We have the exact opposite morals and principles, but it just so happens that I don't think we should be sending a ton of money over to Ben Shapiro's favorite country over there. They also don't think that we should be sending that money over there, but for completely different reasons, because they actually staunchly support the country that is in Ben Shapiro's favorite country's opposition and the terrorist organization that exists within that country. They all support that they basically have come out and said that they support those things, those attacks and everything like that. So they are absolutely insane, just as much or maybe more than Ben Shapiro and everybody else is insane. I'm just over here saying, hey, maybe we should just not support this thing one way or another. Our tax dollars probably shouldn't be going over there to further the lives that are being lost that don't need to be lost. And now it's kind of on American hands as well. That's kind of just my stance on it. But anyway, let me know in the comments what you guys think about what Ben Shapiro had to say in response to the Thomas Massie and Tucker Carlson interview that did expose a whole lot of things. That was just a small clip from that interview. If you haven't checked out the full thing, go make sure you check out that Tucker Carlson interview. It was a really good one. And like I said, there's a great awakening happening. There's a lot of things talked about in that podcast and a lot of others that Tucker Carlson and real journalists out there, real people who are looking for truth like Candace Owens are coming up with, that they're having the important conversations and people are starting to wake up. Let me know in the comments what you're thinking about this whole Ben Shapiro versus Tucker Carlson situation.